year, plus their inevitable encounter in playoffs.
All right, here we go. Game number 1. Gen.G versus T1. Gen.G gets side selection this time around. Nico ban. I think that's very fair up against Keria, who has done some really nasty things on that champion.
Yeah, it is a very, very strong pick in his hands. The Talia will be banned here on blue side. And, you know, Faker on red side doesn't get to have that B1 Azir that he loves to get. I don't know if Gen.G will give it to him ever, even if they do end up on red side. So Pantheon Azir, see if the Varus is also taken from Ruler. As the Xin Zhao actually taken away from Owner here. That's been an iconic pick for him all year, even though it's dropped a little bit in priority, still an incredible pick. So on red side, you have the bans you have to ban. On the blue side, you have a little bit more flexibility. I think all 3 of these bans make a ton of sense, and that Wukong that's just up at the top right now over Vi is once again going to get locked in.
Yeah, at least it did lose earlier today, which was pretty interesting, pretty surprising. DRX dropping that game to DNF. But still, even after that loss, 14-6. So feeling pretty comfortable about the Wukong first pick. The Trundle is going to be the response.
Yeah, you and I were a little bit lukewarm on this matchup directly, but let's wait and see with these 2 teams what the rest of the larger draft is going to look like before we judge this matchup. As the Rise is going to come through for Faker, a lot of comfort on this pick, and it does empower whatever this side lane for Doran will be if he has an aggressive angle there. Chovy looking for a Galio pick into this Rise, decides to pivot away. Wukong Gwen has just been so insanely common because Gwen needs to be able to close the gap to do massive damage on her targets, and Wukong puts those targets into the air and immobilizes them so she can do just that. And this rounds out a combo very well here with the Annie to come through here from Chovy.
Yeah.
We don't know what the bottom lane is going to look like just yet, but you have insane side lane pressure and engage.
Yeah, Annie Wukong is just really strong. Tons of CC, tons of lockdown. It's almost instant as well. If you're ahead with those 2, you can make any fight yours essentially and fight on your terms, as it is going to be the Aurora. Response from Doran into Keen's Gwen.
Really interesting. This does mean the Rumble Vi combo is available for the rest of the series as well, which did go through this draft. And the Aurora is going to be such a strong lane matchup into the Gwen early. And if there any resources are given over to Doran, he starts to run away with that matchup. It becomes so difficult for the Gwen to have any impact in the game. Rakan incredibly strong when Poppy is banned. We've discussed this a lot, and it's going to continue to be the case. Wukong, Rakan, as broken as Wukong is alone. Alistar comes with this. Keria Bard has been pretty scary. I mean, it works decently well with the comp from Gen.G, but I don't know if you really want to ban it in this case, because Keria is on the other side, right? You can break some of those combos with the Bard. I wonder what their opt-in is going to be here. I don't think this is really a Jhin draft for Guma either. Jhin actually feeling a lot better for Ruler in this situation with the picks he has at his disposal. It's a kind of tough ban as they just decide to go for the Yunara, even though Annie Wukong is so strong into it. They're just respecting that. If you can avoid it, feels really good. They look for the Jhin anyways, Valdez.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're going to blind something, at least it's got a decent amount of range, and it's extreme comfort for Guma. You were talking about the Bard as well for Keria, so, you know, Jhin Bard has been their go-to, actually, and I think they're just going to go with comfort here. It should work very well into any lane that it's, you know, challenged with here on the side of Gen.G at the same time, so I don't mind it. It's better than, like, you know, trying to awkwardly pick a support blind. As we're thinking about a bottom duo here for Gen.G, will be Sivir for Ruler.
Sivir plus Rel does feel like a lot of engage, a lot of prio gain. Like, Sivir is in the mid lane, but she feels like a side lane threat because she always gives you prio through that mid lane, especially into a champ like Jhin. She's not going to be able to match her wave clear. If we just see Bard here, it's very predictable, and it is going to be the case. On one hand, I don't think this is the most optimal position for Bard or Jhin on the side of T1 here. Like, it's very risky the way that this could shape up because if your Trundle falls behind or you're not winning in sides and you're trying to set up team fights around Jhin, you don't have that hard engage. Like if you had Jhin on the side of Gen.G, I'm like, oh, you've got a Wukong, you've got a Gwyn to set that up, you've got Annie for Peel. Jin's going to have so much value for days. But considering how strong blue side is, and with the bans you have to opt into for T1 on red side, you've got to ban Pantheon, Azir, Varus. It feels always a little lopsided. They got something they're insanely comfortable with anyways on red side into a top tier team like Gen.G. And so maybe if they play it well, they can get an edge here. Sometimes comfort alone can be good enough when you're as good as T1 is at League of Legends.
Yeah, definitely a lot of control on their side. It feels like every champion has a way to control and bend the rift. And, you know, they're just going to have to play around that. I do worry, you know, T1 sometimes they they go in and they're like, well, we're just going to fight over and over and over. They're very aggressive. And sometimes you got to put your foot on the brake, which might be the case this time around because there's so much dueling power on the side of Gen.G in their composition. So very curious to see how both sides are going to be playing this one out. We are ready. Game number 1 of Gen.G versus T1 starts now.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Alrighty, game number 1, Gen.G versus T1, the second of their 3 matchups here in the Legend group. The first one went the way of T1. It was a 2-1. It was very unexpected, to say the least.
Yeah, at the time when it happened, it had been after Gen.G had won the Esports World Cup and MSI.
And beat HLE on the first day back.
That's right.
Coming off of a flight.
Yep, beating HLE in a pretty challenging game too, right? The game 1 was a little bit more one-sided, but they did end up overcoming Hanwha there, so it just felt like Gen.G was untouchable, right? Unbeatable, and T1 were still kind of recovering from that loss to AL, and again, it's hard to like really put T1 down and their results down, considering how close they were to winning, and the fact that they lost to AL, who then took Gen.G to 5 games in the EWC finals. You were in 5 games against Gen.G in the MSI finals. So, I mean, these teams are always going to be close, right? But, you know, Gen.G ultimately did fall there, and T1, I think, bringing people back to reality a little bit, as Duro's going to whiff this and lose half of his health bar.
Yeah, I mean, Jhin Bard is always going to punish, but this is a lot of punish very early on. This is not necessarily normal, the amount of value that Guma and Keria are getting.
I would not say that these are Guma and Keria's best champs career, but I would say right now in this meta, 100% their best champion.
Yeah.
Like when I say comfort earlier, I really mean it. Because Duro has to like crash down to the wall to get a shield because he's trying to get close enough to get XP with these minions.
Yeah. Also the fact that you're a Sivir, you know, he's playing for the late game for sure, right? Like that is Sivir. You want to get 3 items and then you're kind of online from there and you can take over games. But the landing phase is going to be awful. And this is what Guma and Keria are known for. Not necessarily in modern times, but, you know, all time, this is maybe the best duo ever at punishing 2v2 lanes. And they're going to do it on Jhin Bard.
When you consider how long this duo has been together, I think we can kind of make that statement that this has been the most dominant lane duo of all time here in the LCK. And it's crazy to see just, I mean, Jhin Bard wins, but they are just saying Ruler and Duro are out of the game early. Jhin and Bard on a 4-game win streak. 2 of those, Guma and Keria. You see Ruler and Duro have one as well.
Yeah, everybody's jumping on the Jhin Bard hype train. Well, except our first teams today. We did see some Jhin. We also saw Bard in the same game, just on opposite sides. But that was the Rise group. This is Gen.G versus T1.
It's not inherent synergy in team fights in most cases for this duo, but it is in the laning phase incredibly oppressive right now. And they both do really powerful things, of course, for team fights as well later on. As, yeah, this is just a crushing lane here. And with the lead that Doran also has topside, I mean, you mentioned it at the very beginning of the game, or right before winning game, like, they have some winning lanes, and they are winning them. And they're supposed to, but, like, this is a huge lead here for T1, and what they do with that is yet to be seen, but yeah, for the start of things, it's going to be double scuttle.
I mean, you were highlighting earlier on about how in terms of the team fighting, Gen.G do have a lot of power. Like, that is very apparent. But T1 are playing T1's game where they just essentially try to win all the lanes and play very aggressively and really squeeze as much value out of the games and the lanes as possible. So very excited to see how they do pilot it from here.
It's in Faker on Rise, you know, when you think about him as a player in modern times, especially compared to his old Rise, but I mean, even still, when Rise has had Realm Warp, it's not like Faker's the insane root guy where he hits those that nobody else does, man. He's really maximizing. He knows when to go in, he knows when to rotate, he knows when to use Realm Warp, he knows when to flash out maybe of the mid lane here.
Might have to, but he just gets phase rush.
He knows
OP.
when. He didn't have to.
He knows the timing. He knows that phase rush is OP. He knows that he's got Bard here now to help him out a little bit, but he is going to miss the cannon. Well, Keen doing a decent job fighting back against what is a pretty oppressive lane, but seems to be going okay for Keen so far, not too far behind.
Yeah, Keen is also quite the Aurora enjoyer, so probably very familiar with how to play the matchup on both sides and knows when to go in, take those trades. Guma will catch this wave here, finding himself at a massive CS lead from the earlier 2v2. And this is the kind of early game you want to see, where like everything goes according to plan, no incidents. Yeah, it's like a little bit slow in terms of kills, but it's T1 Gen.G, baby. It's time to maximize advantages, and that's what T1's looking for here.
Gen.G are going to maximize game time so we can watch as much as possible.
Yes, also that.
No 2-0s allowed, okay? That's the one thing. Honestly, I don't care who wins. I just want to see a 3-gamer.
I think you will. I don't want to curse anything or anything like that, but
well, Chronicler's here, so I'm mostly concerned with what he's going to say. He did predict Gen.G, so he is the predictions master.
Yeah.
Something to be said about that. We'll see if he is correct once again today.
Level 6 here for Doran. Keen is just a minion or two away. There's level 6. Probably not really an all-in angle here. Neither player having exhaust. Electrocute, man. They kept buffing it, and eventually just became this this tool in matchups like this where you're like, you thought you could trade with me? I will auto you, and then your health bar goes small.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely very good when you're on a harass-heavy top laner into something like Gwen.
Yeah, I mean, you have the melee versus range matchup. You're kind of just you're putting up your metaphorical shield and trying to absorb the blows.
Yeah. The Doran shield.
Yes.
Except he's playing against Doran.
He's using his shield against it.
Not fair. He went grasp as well on the Gwen, which is pretty common, but I do wonder how many stacks he is going to get into the Aurora. We have seen a couple times where he's just kind of sprinting at the Aurora, probably getting some amount of stacks in those traits.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's more than like 2.
You know, sometimes T1 are going to get this first streak with the prior they have, Shocker. Sometimes when I'm playing top lane, and I'm kind of multitasking on my computer, I put that Grasp rune in, I'll look at the counter matchup I'm in, and suddenly I'm playing, you know, Renekton into Aurora, and I've got Grasp or something. You know, what am I doing? I wouldn't go Grasp on Renekton, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, well, you were distracted. You were multitasking.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. I have been a victim of looking elsewhere and just knowing my team is not going to communicate with me in the chat anyways.
Of course, so.
Yeah. Anyway, personal anecdotes aside, I'm pretty sure Keen just decided he'd get enough stacks and he'll be fine. I think this is still a fine rune choice. It's been a quiet early game, Valdez.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, T1 have control and Gen.G have identified that, okay, we kind of have to sit back, but take a look at this timing. They say, okay, well, Faker's backing. We don't really see owner on the map. They just got the dragon right, so let's try to get some consolation prize elsewhere. They're going to get 2 of the grubs, not all 3.
Consider also, too, Valdez, that like Wukong can't really impact lanes pre-6.
Yeah.
So that's another big win here for T1 when they draft these winning lanes that it's a soft counter, right, to the Wukong, and that it just really hurts his potential to actually protect those losing lanes. And Owner has a massive jungle lead. He can invade like this. Like, he got double scuttle. He's a level up. He's just going to push Canyon out. Carry is here as well, and he's just going to take more and more away. Who's going to help him? Annie? Gwen? I don't know. Good luck getting over here. We finally, Chovy is going to get a second, maybe.
They're trying to set up a play here on G1. You can see it's more of like a vision play, you know? They're gonna Realm Warp into mid, right on top of Chovy, who has to flash. Actually, the stun with the pillar is so cute.
That's the kind of Realm Warp stuff I'm talking about with Faker, you know? Because he's there, he's threatening, but for the lane prio he has, the jungle of Canyon, and when that looks like, okay, we may have overstayed a little bit, oh, boom, I get flash on the way back. I'm back in lane right where I want to be, and I got Chovy's flash with my teammates. And, I mean, this pressure bottom lane with Duro going up to try to defend means they get more power here. Another plate goes over.
All right, trying to make a play here on Aguma. He's just going to take the safe way out and flash. There's the cleanse on the stun, and now, excellent ult comes in. The Tempered Fate keeps them alive against the Wukong. They had blown all the summoners, both Keria and Guma, and Canyon was going to be there as the final threat.
I know
he got isolated.
I know it's lane prio, and it's only a 900 gold lead, but it really does feel like how T1 are using this prio is practically running circles around Gen.G in this
Tempo vibes.
Game. Tempo vibes for real, but I mean, I think it's more than just a vibe in this one. It's just good play, and you know, like I said, the comfort with these champs and the lane prio they have might be enough to get over the line.
No missed. He's in a lot of trouble here. He does have flash at least. He's pushing forward into the turret. A lot of needles do come down. There's no TPs available. There's no jungler on the way. He's just dead. First blood goes over to Doran. In the counter matchup, he's going to love that gank from Owner.
This is really starting to look like a lead here for T1 that's going to be enough to circumvent some of the problems they may have in team fights later on, you know? Like, the main thing I was worried about for the draft for T1 is, will there be enough of a front lane, will there be enough of a setup for the Jhin that has to deal with Wukong, or not Aurora, but the Gwen. And now the Gwen is put behind, because Keen played aggressively here, had finally a moment where he's like, I can maybe push this through. Gets ganked, gets taken out, doesn't flash wisely. Was never going to get away there, but I mean, the lead makes it so much easier to play this out for T1, and I think this lead is not just going to stay at 2K. Like, it can absolutely start to snowball. I mean, more and more plates start going down, and more farm is to the line from Ruler. And, I mean, Guma doesn't look like he's backed for a little while.
Yeah.
Has his first item and waiting, for sure. Another plate in his pocket.
Yeah, I like the way they play that, too, where the Sivir's just gone. Like, Ruler has been pushed out of lane. He's behind a decent amount, already about 600 gold. Does Guma have the lead? So they know that they're totally safe with no Sivir there. Even if Canyon does come down, even though they have no summoners, they can still pressure, they can still get that, eke out that little bit of value, that little extra turret plate. And that is definitely their way.
I mean, look at the timing of everything that starts to set up here now as well. Like, Bard's rushing back into the mid lane. They have Cryo for Dragon. They also have Realm Warp. Faker can come down here and deal with Sivir's wave clear with his own. And they're like, checkmate, Gen.G. Good luck getting on this dragon. You've got great engage tools, but not if you can't get to the objective itself. And Guma can deal with the mid wave because he's not laning into a Sivir, and then he could be here with ult. And Owner's just like, you can't even walk in here! The pillar will expire, and they could try to walk in.
Then they can walk in, yeah. Or they could have, like, jumped over it, you know?
Yeah.
There are a couple of ways, but yeah, they're just probably going to have to give up double dragon here in this early game.
Just look at the cross-map opportunities, and they aren't there. You know, Chovy's pushing a wave bottom as Ruler catches a wave in the mid lane.
To one. Oh, and we got a play here once again on the Chovy. Still no flash from the earlier Realm Warp, but now he's just able to get in and punish. It's another kill. It goes over to Owner, which isn't exactly ideal, but it's still very good for the team.
I mean, that was the one place where Gen.G had a player doing a thing. And then they're like, he's not doing it, it's not allowed. Another Realm Warp success. First one gets flash, second one gets the flashless Annie. Close on the dragon, but ultimately with no real way to get in there didn't necessarily matter. And I mean, what are you gonna do? Drops a bear.
Yeah.
That's all he's got.
It's just very interesting that in this meta that's so team fight dominated, that T1 are finding a way to play their game. You know, we've seen T1, you know, kind of adapt, and they're very good at team fighting. I think that Doran really helps with that, actually, and he's been playing very well. But now they're just kind of going back to old T1, which was games like this. Like, if you think about even a year ago, 2 years ago, they would just play games like Varus Ashe, and you just don't get to play the game, and you know, Owner would just gank top, and it would just kind of be over from there. Like, Gen.G aren't out of this one for sure. It's just Really cool to harken back to an older meta, an older time where this was essentially how T1 dominated an era of League of Legends.
And, you know, I think a lot of people thought this wouldn't be possible with Doran in the top lane. A lot of people were like, oh, that's T1 style. They can't do it without Zeus. And Doran has just changed as a player. He's improved as a player. He has an amazing matchup here. But he's eking out all the leads he needs to give them these types of positions. We're going to have a big fight topside, and Chovy does not have friends.
Yeah, just trying to bait him into the fight. Chovy, I feel like Owner even... maybe not. I think that would have been a little bit too risky to continue there, especially with Wukong nearby. But still, putting a lot of pressure on a Chovy.
This may be a bridge too far, though. Chovy did have his stun prep, but Faker's way out of there. When I saw Owner coming back in, I got a little bit worried. Still a little bit worried.
A bit of a setup brewing here from Gen.G. Looks like they want to take some kind of fight. We have Exhaust here on a ruler as Keria is calling for this. And now the Magical Journey. Looks like Keria can't quite get in there, but now the TP on in into immediate Tempered Fate. Faker is in that backline with no escape as a bunch of damage is being done. Doran there as well, but the needles go in, and Faker actually got out of there. Doran now in the backline himself as Faker does get taken down eventually. Gen.G trying to press forward. They got this strong Gwen trying to frontline, but they can't really deal with Guma. And so now they're on the run, but can they run away from the Jin? Is really the question. The shots, a couple of them do ring true, but the others do miss.
I mean, call it luck, call it T1 magic, but 1,500 kills, by the way, for Doran, a second top laner to hit this milestone. Guma's gonna have to cleanse.
That's a good pick up there from Chovy.
Nice,
doing what he can.
Nice grab with his ultimate. You know, hasn't been able to do too much with it just yet, but like I said, call it luck, call it magic. It's fights like this for T1 where you're like, oh, I don't know about this. I mean, that's a Wukong. You're pushing in pretty deep. And then Faker TPs into no man's land. They see this, and Keria perfectly has his ultimate timed for Faker here. He's still in no man's land, still doing a decent amount of damage, but T1 are actually trying to kite and disengage on the right side of the fight. Faker gets out, so much damage is done by Faker, and then Doran's arrival, they crush it. Yes, he dies, but Canyon has to flash for it.
They both flashed for it.
Exactly.
He did as well.
And then, so you get two flashes there. Keria, guess what he's got? His realm warp for the exit. And it just feels like that shouldn't have happened. Like, it doesn't feel like you should be able to get away with that. And yet, T1 do.
Yeah, that's the way it goes here at Legend Group. Sometimes these teams just pull it out of a hat.
They're going to get a whole turret.
Yeah, he's just going to get this one here. Straight for the Rift Heralds. A big group up, tons of wardage, and
that's
commitment from Gen.G on the top side of the map.
Feats as well.
Yeah, they got 2 objectives on top of it, so they were even contesting for that as well.
Now, the Gen.G team fighting comp is significantly behind, but as we saw in that last fight, fights can look pretty close, and I thought that the ending to that fight might have been a reminder that, you know, if you go too deep into this comp, if you play too aggressively around your prio, you can get punished. Duro was considering one of those punishes right there, but didn't have enough teammates nearby to look for it. But it starts to make you wonder, like, do T1 have too much of a lead now? I think the answer is no. And they want to keep on keeping enough hold of this tempo to make sure they can continue to dictate fights on their terms. They have double dragon, but they do not have prio for the third. Faker's just going to get another turret.
Yeah, it seems to be his game plan, is just let them get objectives and just kind of side lane. It's better than not side laning. Duro going to take a ton of damage. Doran as well lays down the ult, but they're not contesting for this. You see that Owner is in the top jungle of Gen.G. Trying to steal it was Guma.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really cool play, though, because they can actually significantly damage the second turret. And if there was another wave here, I think they just get the whole thing. They're going to hold some damage on it.
They were considering it, yeah.
But, like, because Faker and Owner are topside there, and Guma has a completely non-committal ult, he just tosses his ult out. If he hits one more of those shots when Doran drops that ultimate, they kill somebody, give a dragon, and get a turret and a half. You know what I mean? It's T1 really knowing that the team fighting comp with Gen.G is too powerful, too potent at this moment. They've got a 2 Drake lead. They can find value elsewhere, and maybe even get a pick. And that was just fantastic decision making there. Not that Gen.G made the wrong choice; they made the only choice, which was to show up to dragon. But T1 were one step ahead.
Yeah, Gen.G though still in it. They get that Mountain Drake. They're not too far behind on gold. They have a nice amount of scaling with the Gwen and the Sivir. and, you know, a nice amount of engage on top of that. That's kind of the 1-2 punch of the Gen.G composition. And as long as the next fights, or, you know, it might be one, might be a couple, stay relatively even, I feel like as we go later in this game, T1 will have to answer some of Gen.G's tools that they have in their kit, which they kind of drafted into. Like, Gen.G knew what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah.
But, you know, how will they actually execute it to make their composition work?
And if somehow, like, one of these lanes went awry, like Doran made a mistake, or Chovy was able to catch Faker, get his flash early, and the prio leads for T1 weren't there, I think this game could have looked completely different, right? Like, T1 also knew what they were getting themselves into this draft, which means they need to take that pressure and never let it go, and so far that's been incredibly successful for them. Their Dragon give was not for free, and they keep putting this pressure on. This Rise is going to be incredibly useful at trying to keep these melees at bay as well. Faker went for Rod of Ages. We'll have Seraph, who's going to be relatively safe. Not that he's like tank Rise, so we've seen in the past, but he's going to be relatively safe in the front line. And if he gets enough gold here from sitting in these side lanes, sitting on those turrets, it's going to be hard to pick him, and then Jin is super far away, and then suddenly you could see a world where T1 actually can just straight up team fight. With the lead they have, almost feels advantageous for them if they can get enough money in those wallets.
Yeah, absolutely. For now, it's just a lot of playing around vision, trying to set up a bunch of deep wardage here for T1 around the Otacon, it looks like, which always an interesting objective. The Sivir here into the Bard felt like a good choice for Ruler, expecting it. His owner so fast, just sprinting at Canyon, has to push him away.
Crazy. And if it's not T1, you're probably like, well, that's a Jin comp. I don't know if they're doing Otacon on spawn, right? But with no vision, and the fact that T1 wasn't showing on the map, they gotta send some people over there and clear that vision. You never know who's gonna lurk in that brush either. It's not the most engage-heavy composition here for T1 in terms of catching people when you're clearing vision. And it is a Rel this time around, not a Bard that's face checking, but you gotta be respectful. And Gen.G are doing exactly that as Ruler is pillared.
You can see they were thinking about it. Oh, that's a nice little binding into two. And now we get this ult coming in. We have the Realm Orb for Vision. And Faker, of course, who is going to take it. Faker no chill in this game. And that Rift Herald just gets dropped down for basically no value. Remember that it was a Rift Herald for Faker getting the bottom turret. So that trade, quote unquote, just ends up to be another little T1 victory.
Keria going deep for this.
All right, he's going to land an ult here. Could be like a Jin lockdown, but no, it just looks a little bit opportunistic.
Yeah, Guma didn't have ult. Could have tried to go for, of course, the Flourish, but was a little bit out of range there. I don't think that will necessarily amount to anything. The fact that Keria uses ult for no joy there, especially because T1, I don't think, are looking for a fight till this dragon spawns. And, you know, Realm Warp on a long cooldown, but T1 here, knowing they don't have those tools, probably try to see if they get anything they can. If they get that pick before Dragon, then they get Prio. Instead, Gen.G will have it. Let's see what T1 gets in return this time. Will they try to, without these key ultimates fully set up, fight on spawn? Or will they send Faker to another side lane to try to actually get value? Because they already damaged that top turret to half. He's going to TP to bottom. And it looks like they're going to try to contest for Prio and try to slow this Dragon down a little bit. And Guma's ult's coming back online here. Maybe T1 think they're ready to actually just straight up 5v5 in this game against Gen.G's incredible teamfight comp. And this is at least for now to be the look. They will clear all of this vision, grab this Scuttle Crab, TP. Outside Prio, there's the TP. Gen.G, like, they cannot really give this. It's Mountain Soul point.
Yeah, it's a really critical point in this game. If Gen.G do get it, though, I feel like as long as they don't lose too much, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how far they can push it with double Mountain Drake. If they get it, that is. Duro level 7 still.
Keen's clearing the bottom wave. Like, he's not threatening a turret, so T1 are just chilling. They're like, all right, the Gwen's not hitting a turret. We can actually just continue to fight for Prio. We don't lose any time. We don't have to rush this Dragon. Let's slow play this. You know, if Keen's killing your top inner right now, you feel a lot like, okay, I really got to do this ASAP, but instead they're feeling pretty happy to continue to zone Gen.G out and get more and more vision control. Now Faker on the wraparound here does once again clear that wave.
Owner he's always on the cusp of just running at them, it looks like. Meanwhile, Duro trying to press forward. This is a very awkward choke because the Mountain Soul, even that little extra rock, making things a little bit worse for Gen.G. You don't want to group up against Pillar, against Rise, against a Jhin, right? Makes it much easier for them to lock down, especially with that bit of a lack of engage that you were talking about as they engage on the Trundle. Trying to take down Owner is not going to happen, and immediately Duro just gets burst to shreds, and the rest of Gen.G just on the run, not really wanting to take the rest of the fight. Doran a little bit low, but you see that Keen is backing, maybe looking to TP back into this fight.
Yeah, some heals coming through just a little bit there from the Bard. Guma still has ult, and both summoners, so he's actually feeling pretty happy to just walk forward here and take some pot shots. Now getting engaged on the right back.
Canyon, he is so close to that. Keria jumping on in, gonna keep two of them in prison. He does go down, but that means they get the kill on a Canyon. It's actually gigantic as now Guma, the Scissors, are pushing forward. The Keen is not going to get any kills. Ruler now just sprinting at them, actually can do a lot, but no, he's taking too much from Faker, totally ignored the rise, and it's a massive mistake, and T1 turned this fight around. They were already ahead, but now they're just getting the bonus kills on top of bonus kills. Will T1 get everything in the fight?
I mean, this might just be the game-ending fight. Straight up, 5 dead for Gen.G. Who cares about a Mountain Soul point? It's T1, Baron spawns at 25, and they'll start it at 25-10. Doran gonna get the whole mid turret. And this team's team fighting, their synergy, it looks like they break the rules of League of Legends. They do things that aren't possible. They're doing this to Gen.G when Gen.G have the stronger team fighting comp, but they have a big enough lead. The engage here onto the Trundle is not ideal. The subjugate deletes the rel instantly. The Trundle has extra resistances. Then T1 just back away and reset here. The Tibbers, low value, taken out of the fight. And then it's this part here where Keria just trusts that with his ultimate, he can actually make a crazy play.
This was so cool.
And then, like, look at how much trust there is with this roster. Like, watch this fight 7 times and tell me that, like, not even one word was said probably before that happened. They just know. He's like, I go in, I have my ult, and the team is like, yeah, he's got his ult, we're gonna do this. Doran breaks the ankles of Keen as well on his way out, and it's just a cleanup. And you watch this, and Ruler's like, I gotta do something, I gotta get this angle, and not able to do it. The peel from Guma, Chovy is dead, and it's just a sad row.
Yeah.
The engager from the beginning of the fight is the last to fall. And the irony is brilliant for T1 fans as they'll get the Baron, and Gen.G fans are not happy with how that one eventuated.
Yeah, that was kind of the face I was making too. That it was rough. I mean, they tried, but now you mentioned kind of like game-breaking fight. They got everyone plus an extra rel and the Baron. So now it's like 8,000 gold to lead for T1. The compositions begin to have less meaning as we get to these sorts of numbers. And Keria's on the flank. Looking for Ruler here, no doubts, trying to get into that backline. They have the full wraparound. They're going to try to turn and immediately jump on a Faker who just goes golden. With the help of Keria, goes golden again. And the rest of his team is just cleaning up. The wallets are gigantic. T1 are styling on Gen.G.
Not even close. Chovy running as fast as his phase rush will take him. I don't think he gets out of this one.
They're just playing with their food at this point.
I mean, Faker had TP and Realm Warp. He had 2 ways to join the fight. He had Baron buff. If the fight doesn't look optimal, if they don't think they can get that flank angle, he can take out an inhibitor. He's Rise with Baron in the mid lane, but he decides to come over, rotates quickly, gets that flank. Who says stopwatch Sonya's double stasis is dead? Keria says it's very much alive. That he just lives through everything with a safe Rod of Ages, Seraphs, and quick arm guard buys. The guy is just unkillable.
He's really making them regret not banning Bard. I'll tell you that because I don't think we're going to see a lot of Keria playing Bard after this series, just this one game alone.
And like, look at this flank angle from Faker as the ult comes out from Guma. Like, look at where Gen.G are. They're like, there's actually no escape. They're playing a bullet hell game, and it's on the highest difficulty. And Owner is Trundle, and he's just going to lock them in. No way out. No way to quit the game.
Yeah.
Ruler caught here with the stun after his spell shield. And Chovy, the final one to fall. And this game felt like it was potentially going to be decided by Prio alone, but it's the brilliant team fighting with the lead that T1 had in the Prio they played through that just showcases maybe their 6th man was the minions all along. The Prio they had and the vision that they played around just allows them to make so many of these incredible plays, but you have to trust your team so hard if you're going to make a play like that. And they do.
Oh man, Keria is setting this up actually as her opening up with the Jhin. Even the Tempered Fate trying to remove the blockers. These guys are I mean, they're actually just like the Globetrotters right now.
Yeah, this looks like tool assisted.
They're trying to make TikTok highlights right now. Like, this doesn't even look like Gen.G versus T1. And I don't know, like...
And until Game 2, I don't think we are going to see that, Valdez. I think we're going to see a Gen.G that desperately tries to defend with their wave clear. I mean, they've got a Gwen, they've got a Sivir, and they're praying that maybe T1 somehow will get a little bit too Harlem Globetrotters and face plant, but I don't think it's going to happen. They might be more thinking about what they're going to ban in Game 2. They won't be banning the Bard, you mentioned. That's Fearless ban for their sake.
Faker just hit level 18 before Toby hit level 15. I think that kind of tells the story of the way this game has gone. Like, Faker's played well, but everybody else has played well. And of course, the Route of Ages is helping out with that a little bit. It's just kind of insane what they've been able to do. Faker doing a lot of split pushing in this game, yet he was there for every single fight. So, also tells you the way that T1 have controlled the map.
I know that people will call us Glazers, but like, it's Gen.G.
Yeah, and it's also hard because Gen.G really just... You know, we talked about their win conditions, but we just never got to see them.
Yeah.
Like, they just never showed up. So it's really hard to find an angle to really talk about them when it doesn't even really feel like they're in the game. We could say this about any other team who's facing any other team. They just really haven't had an ability to show any of their stuff. We haven't seen any fight that's really been coordinated by them.
The closest one was that fight like at the blue buff on blue side, you know, where T1 went in aggressively and Faker barely got out. Like, that was the most fight Gen.G's had, and they didn't even really walk away with a W on that one either.
Right, trying to make a play here once again. They're really trying to bully Rulers. It's very obvious. They're like, okay, we got a target on this guy's back. And now Gen.G down 13,000 gold, looking for the angle. Oh man, just dropping Aurora ultimates on top of Toby's head as the shots ring true. Owner just running at them at this point in time, gonna remove some blockers. There's the stun, and Rulers, they get him first again. And yeah, T1 really just styling on them at this point, just having a lot of fun. The fans are getting a great kick out of this game, at least on the T1 side. You saw the facial expressions of the Gen.G fans earlier. Didn't look great.
This is just a dominant victory, no two ways about it. I feel like we didn't see Gen.G at all in Game 1, and T1 making a statement here. Keen doing a lot of damage, but I think with him being really the only one left, it's not going to matter here, Valdez. How do you recover from a loss like this? I mean, Gen.G's played a lot of tough series that went the distance this year. I think they're the team that can handle it, but I don't know, Valdez. The crowd favors T1. T1 with incredible comfort in this first draft. And I didn't think that they were going to be able to out-team fight Gen.G unless they got a massive lead. And I didn't think they'd be able to turn that lane lead into 4,000 early. But they did.